Hi there, it's Paul from Wolf Software Systems, and it's another Wolfstack update. We've got lots of new things. We've been working a lot with Discord group and people on there. I've got 14 servers running in 3 Proxmox clusters and a Wolfstack cluster, so that's this Wolfstack cluster over here. And so the cool thing about Wolfstack is I can actually see all this stuff and see the status of those servers at any time. So one of the goals of Wolfstack was really to act in a predictive manner. So sometimes what happens is, let's say you get a server whose disk's filled up. One of the issues is that you don't see it until it's actually full. Or if you've got monitoring, it might go, hey, it's 90% full. So, but we actually go a stage further. So we've got something, so that's, I'll show you that in a minute. We've got something called Predictive Inbox. And this is actually monitoring the state of things. Now, actually, we've just added OSV vulnerabilities in there. So, for instance, this one here, it's showing that there's quite a few OSV vulnerabilities on this server. Now, it says I can fix them. All I have to do is hit run there. And what it does is actually opens a terminal, and then it'll actually do the run. So I'm going to say mark applied because that's actually done. And in fact, there are a lot of vulnerabilities that have been fixed already on this host. Sophie here has got the same problem. So let's open this one here. You can see it's showing the different, and it shows actually if you just upgrade it. So I'll just do the same thing. You see it takes a second because it's connecting to a remote node. So it's using, so basically Wolfstack clusters are, you can put them on top of Proxmox. Proxmox won't know it's there. You can run it as a native Wolfstack cluster. And this one's, there it goes. Took a little bit of time to, because I was switching from another node. Again, run that. We can run the upgrade. Look, mum, no hands. So this will actually fix those issues. So then I can do, once this is done, this will actually fix all the security updates that I need doing on these servers. So it actually shows you the different things that are actually vulnerabilities that are available, that are on these servers, and actually helps you to get them up to date. So that one's done. So I'm actually going to, so this is Sophie as well. I've just done upgrades so that I can actually mark all these as complete. And that gets rid of them. So obviously there's quite a few here because there's a Proxmox cluster here that needs looking at. It also looks at inside LXC containers like this one. I'll go and do those a bit later, but you can actually pull them open. It'll show you what the issues are, and it'll actually run the updates. You can actually run the updates. Now, something else you can do. So that's just part of the predictive inbox, and this is running like every now and then, depending on what particular scans it's running. You can also go into settings, and there's the usual things with settings where you've got different themes. But you've also got the facility to set up GitHub for doing backups. You can set up your file locations. You can really customize an awful lot with it, but also you can set up an AI agent. We've got Gemini, Claude, and there are some local ones, but we're having a few issues with local AI agents because they need to have certain abilities to be able to run with this. So that's something we're working with the Discord group with. We haven't forgotten about it. You can set up passkeys, security, users. You can either use standard Linux system logins, or you can set up specialist users, backup configs, all that sort of thing. So this is all in the settings. So if I've set up AI, you see I've got an AI box here. And also we've actually built our own harness, a whole bunch of agents. So this guy here, his name's Fang. And actually, if you go into our Discord, you can actually join our Discord group, and here is Fang answering questions. So Fang has a complete knowledge base of Wolfstack. So Wolfstack itself, this is a bit odd, its AI knows all about Wolfstack, and it also knows about Linux. It knows about what's going on. I can do things that like checking disks. I can connect it to Discord, email, Telegram. You can set up exactly anything you want. I mean, there's some other things in here as well in this new slide out box. We used to have all this stuff over here. So we've got a full database editor in here. So we can basically, in fact, I'll put it full screen. If I can find the button. Where's the button? There's a button here somewhere. Yeah, we can actually make it full screen. There it is. I knew it was there somewhere. So basically it's a built-in database editor, and I've got a sample pet database here. You can look at the structure of a table. It goes to database diagram. You can actually see what's going on with it. Zoom out, zoom in, usual sort of thing. You can save an SVG of your database diagram. You can build queries using customers, history, and then I can, it's got to be linked the customer ID. In fact, it's a pet, so I need to add the pets table as well. So I can move this around like this, and I can go, okay, pet ID is linked. So I just drag that across, and let go, and that'll link pet ID to pet ID. So I'm going to have name. So you can see I can add this, and the beauty of it is when I'm ready. So let's get rid of that one. Reason for visit. Let's do that. Okay, there's a bit of a linked group, and then if I go send to query, it's then in a query where I can just, I don't know if this is going to run because I wasn't really reading it. Run it. Yep, it did. So there you can build a query like that. And obviously I can use this query from within here. So that's pretty cool. Server details as well. So you can see what's actually going on the server. Back to my query. And you can save queries obviously and do the usual sorts of things. Yeah, it's quite a useful tool. Really, you can set up multiple connections on your servers, and those connections as well can be used for the AI agents as well. So you can restrict them. So the beauty of having a harness like this is that we can actually restrain. If I go into my AI agents again, so just open my drawer, up my AI agents. There we are, Wolf agents. If I pull one up, say here, for instance, and I go to edit, you'll see that there's all kinds of connections that are allowed. And then you can give it rights to do stuff. And most of it, I mean, we really avoid giving AI too much in the way of control, being able to. The worst thing you want is AI deleting your database or anything like that. There's some bookmarks here. There's a map of all our servers, all 14. There's a map of all those 14 servers and how they're linked together. And we've got quite a lot. So that on Proxmox, which is this, there's a Proxmox cluster here. You can see that we've got the same stuff you have in Proxmox, except we've got a lot more other stuff, because by adding Wolfstack to a Proxmox cluster, it also creates a Mesh 6 network, basically, and it can run across servers, even if they're not like in the. So if you go, I don't know, let's say you get a one provider or Hetzner or someone like that, or OVH, and you rent 3 servers, and they've got different IP addresses, they're in different parts of the data center, and maybe in a different data center. Wolfstack doesn't really care. You just create a Wolfstack cluster. And the beauty of it is it's not as tied down as, say, a Proxmox cluster where you have to have 3 nodes and they kind of have to be the same processors. You can run Wolfstack on anything like Raspberry Pis to run Wolfstack on IBM Power, which was amazing because those servers are 3-node cluster with IBM Powers coming in about $50,000. Oh yeah, so it has a lot of utilities and tools within it. So for instance, you've got settings for your containers, just like you do with Proxmox, except you have a lot of extra stuff, and it's a lot more intuitive and helpful. So the other thing we've got, of course, is you've got Wolf Disk, Wolf Cube, which is, so if you want to set up a Kubernetes cluster, you can actually do it straight away within Wolfstack, and it actually sets up K3s, K8s. You can just choose, and then you can use the App Store. So the App Store is cool because it detects what it's running on. So again, if I was to search for, I don't know, just pick something really, media, what's in media? I didn't really plan this. Okay, let's install that one. So you see straight away it goes to Wolfcube. Now if I choose so I can actually deploy from the App Store to any cluster. So if I pick wolf1.uk, then it's only got Docker because it doesn't have a Kubernetes cluster running on it. I can choose what storage I put it on. I can add in advanced settings, environment variables, and all kinds of things. So you can actually really set up quite a few things. About 550 different apps in the App Store. Saves you going around the web looking for stuff. You can normally find what you need in here. One of the other things you've got in here is something called Wolf Router. So what we wanted to do is to replace things like OPN Sense. So with a standard Proxmox cluster, you basically, you'd probably install OPN Sense as a VM, and then you'd use that, or you could probably use Proxmox's own stuff. But I wanted to make it more interesting. So this is actually Wolfstack. You can see that these servers are all in different racks, and that's why we're getting different routes. Now, if I go to my Homelab, which is actually in the office, in fact, what's happening at the moment is this is my laptop here. Okay, and then I've got another laptop sitting in the office. We run CodeWolf, which is a tool we use for developing software. And then this is a big screen server. So this is like a little Homelab. We actually love Homelab because the thing about enterprises, we tend to do things in a very structured fashion, whereas Homelab users will just bolt anything in. And that's one of the goals of Wolfstack, is to understand what's going on with their network. So with this Wolf router, you'll see it's slightly different. So in this one, we've got those are the 2 nodes sitting in the office. And this is me here attached to Starlink. And so what you'll find is that if I go and sit in the office, you'll only see one router. And if you click this, I can't click this here because obviously I'm nowhere near the office. But if I click here, that's actually the router that I'm going through right now. So I can actually log straight into that. But it does things like you can set up DHCP, you can set up, it'll actually configure stuff. In fact, I'm looking at the right thing. Policy maps to show you how things are linked together, and then you can run traffic simulation across them. You can set up PPOE around reverse proxies, subnet routes. You can set up connections. In fact, and this is a bit like a kind of Wireshark idea. It'll actually allow you to scan what's going on. We've got DNS tools, and it explains exactly what you can do to look at. You can look at the DNS going on different nodes, etc. Visual traceroute is just a tool. So if I go to wolf.uk.com, which is in Frankfurt in Germany, and I'm sitting in the UK, you'll see what it's got, and it should. There it goes. Okay, now this will look a bit weird because I'm actually on Starlink, so I'm actually using satellite internet. So although I'm about there, actually, that's probably it there. So for some reason, it disappeared up to here, Stockholm, and made its way back, and then made its way around. And then you can actually see a list. It's quite good fun, this, actually, to look at. Logs is to do with firewall logs. Threats is really to do with the threat level, firewalls and things like that. Oh, no, I'll tell you what this does. I remember now. So what this basically does is allows it to look at your IP addresses. Now, one of the things we found with certain commercial server providers was that you'd rent a server from them that had an IP address that was used by a scammer or a spammer who got their IP taken away, because obviously their servers were shut down, but you get it and it's blacklisted. So what this does is it actually finds to see if, I mean, this is actually that's Tailscale, so it's trying to find an external IP address. But if I was to go back to here, and I go to table view here, and I go to threat level, might get a bit of a different setup. So it's actually just looking to see what's going on, and actually these are all good. But if there was an issue, it would tell you that you're actually blacklisted, and it's really useful to know. And we've had people tell us that. Look at these. So there you can see the Kubernetes clusters. You can also see work going on with Docker, LXC containers. Okay, so that's quite interesting. I know I'm going through an awful lot. Backups, we've got Proxmox backups, so you can actually back up to Proxmox directly. This is backups, so it's done by cluster. And there you go. We've got some Proxmox backups going on here. In fact, we did have an issue with one of the containers last night, which has now been completed, and that's all solved. So yeah, it's pretty good. I really love it. It was built because we were managing multiple Proxmox clusters, actually, and just got fed up with it. Fed up with having to, to keep having like 5 tabs to just look at your whole estate. Whereas with this, you can actually basically set up clusters really easily. And then you can start experimenting with Wolf USB. We can actually plug a USB in one server and then share it across the whole of your cluster, depending on what sort of USB it is. It runs kind of virtual machines. You can go in the terminal straight away. You can view your system logs. Storage, you can see what storage is running on the server. It supports Ceph, NFS, SSHFS. One of the new things we've got as well is you can set up shares. So for instance, if you were in a small business, you might have a couple of servers, and you could use Wolfdisk to actually replicate data from one server to another, but you can also install Samba and NFS server and create Samba shares, which means Windows and, cheeky. If anyone's still using Windows, then they can actually access this, or you can have it as a shared or NFS if you wanted to use other things. You'll see WolfNet's active networking. Again, I can look at the cluster, the networking on this machine. It's just loading now, so you can actually sort of really have a look. So there's a WolfNet interface running here that's basically built a mesh network. And the beauty of having a WolfNet network is that you can actually just route everything through the public IPs you've got available. So if you're a Homelab user and you might have a public IP sitting on the router, and you can actually route things through that. Same with if you've got, say, I don't know, if you've got a couple of servers, one of the providers, or bought a VPS or something like that, you can just use that one IP and then just route it through to different LXC containers, which is a bit different. It's just a lot easier than trying to use some of the Proxmox and other tools. Because so if you want to public IP mappings, you just tell it the IP, that one there, and I want it to go to LXC container 103, automatically selects it, and you just select the ports. So you can do that. Ceph cluster. This has actually got a Ceph cluster on it, I think. Yes, it has. So this shows you actually what's going on with the Ceph cluster right now. No, and so it does support an awful lot, and it looks like overly complicated, but the whole point of Wolfstack was to make things a lot easier. So there's a lot more explanation over what's going on. We've got status pages, so basically you can set up a public status page for your servers. You can see where we've been upgrading a lot. You know, there's so much built into it, but it's just decided I was just sick and tired of using all these different tools to basically run server clusters, and I wanted something that could be installed by anyone. I want someone who's like a school student to be able to get Wolfstack, chuck it on a laptop, an old knackered laptop if they want, and just to learn about containers and Docker and Kubernetes and all these other things without having a sort of breakdown in terms of the tech that's involved in it, Yeah, so there's an awful lot to see, obviously, and I hope that you do get to try it out. So installing it is pretty easy as well. Just find any old Linux server. Oh, by the way, if you've got a VR headset, you can actually use this. This is a virtual server room, so I can actually, if you've got a VR headset like a Meta Quest 2, you can actually walk around a server room in VR, which was just about fun because I had nothing to do on one Sunday afternoon. I thought, wouldn't it be cool? And we actually own a game, so I've kind of used to doing it. Global view is fleet overview, server and wolf agent, wolf flow. This is for setting up. If you don't want to use like an AI type of solution, you want to have a much more rigid. You can use Wolfflow to set up workflows, and then you can schedule them to run at different times. Quite good fun. I think that's all I'm going to say because there is a lot to it. So how do you install it? How do you get a hold of it? What do we charge for it? So let's just go to wolfstack.org. Okay, so wolfstack.org. Now, this is the website, obviously. If you go to install now, it'll take you through the things you need to do to install it, which is mostly running that. If you run that on a, and it's got to be Linux, unfortunately. If you run that on a Linux server, and you might have to do these things first, but if you run that on a Linux server, it will set you up Wolfstack up in probably under 30 seconds, and you'll have a running Wolfstack server, and then it shows you how to add the clusters here. Licensing, really took notice of some of the interesting forum comments about other products and their licensing. We wanted to have something that was available to everyone. So we've got like a free tier, Homelab tier for enthusiasts running up to 5 hosts. If you want to run 25 hosts, £49 a month, and then Enterprise $299 a month, and that's for unlimited hosts. And also this includes extra stuff. So obviously, depending on what level you get, depending what level you're paying for, depends on what access you get to it. So obviously it says up here, I'm running Enterprise, and it tells me I've got 3 hosts there. I've got 14 hosts on this one. And I can go to here and I can absolutely go to my billing portal, set that up. There's full documentation here. And of course, our wonderful Discord group with our fantastic users. So do come, you can join our Discord group. We have a lot of interesting discussions on there. You can either use the AI within your Wolfstack setup. If you don't set up AI, Wolfstack will still run fine. It's just it won't give you that extra stuff. It won't try and help you to actually diagnose and deal with issues. If you're a learner, definitely set up AI. It's really useful just to be able to ask it questions. So that's all I'm going to say. So it's wolfstack.org. Okay, please do have a good route around. If you want to talk, please come and talk on our Discord. It's really quite active at the moment. And if you're a larger company, enterprise, come and talk to us. We'd really love to do a Google Meet with you and talk you through Wolfstack, talk you through what it does. You can experience it for yourself. So that's it. Thanks very much.